The first rule of the galaxy wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a diplomatic courtesy or a cultural note. It was law, etched into treaties, carved into monuments, and whispered with reverence by every race that valued peace. Do not harm the human children. It had been this way for over 3 centuries. The older species knew why. The younger ones had only heard fragments, tales of a species so deeply bound to its young that even the threat of harm unleashed horrors no civilization could contain. They say the Krytal Empire once tried. Centuries ago, they abducted 47 human children from a distant Earth colony, planning to use them as leverage during trade negotiations. What followed wasn't war. It was annihilation. The Krytal were erased. Homeworlds turned to ash, star systems sterilized. No demands were made. No peace offered. Just one message sent before contact ended. Return them. All of them. Or we come. Only 2 children survived. The Krytal did not. The message had been clear ever since. And yet, on the colony of Safnira, a shimmering jewel in neutral space, a tragedy was unfolding. The interspecies education campus was considered a success story. Children of diplomats, traders, and scientists from over a dozen species studied together. Laughter echoed in a dozen dialects. Human children, though few, were a common sight. Small, clever, always forming packs. They were protected. Everyone knew that, until someone forgot. Lieutenant Valek of the Ziran Security Force frowned at the datapad. It displayed a message flagged as urgent, but encrypted beyond his clearance. He was posted outside Sector 9, where the school dormitories were. His superior, Council Director Henril of the Varnari, strode past him with purpose, flanked by 2 guards. "Director, is there an issue?" Valek asked, adjusting his sidearm nervously. Henril didn't stop. "Possible human cyber espionage. We've detected unauthorized transmissions." Valek blinked. "From children?" "Doesn't matter," Henril snapped. "They're transmitting human code. We isolate, we question. Standard procedure." The guards entered dormitory Section Delta. Valek stood frozen outside, unease bubbling in his gut. 15 minutes later, the screaming started. The child's name was Ava Lynn Reyes, 11 years old, daughter of Earth Ambassador Camira Reyes and born in orbit over Luna Prime. She hadn't screamed out of fear. She screamed because when the guard shoved her friend, a younger boy named Theo, he hit his head against a metal edge. Blood, confusion, pain. They didn't hit her. Not directly, but the grip on her arm left bruises. The shouting, the locked room, the dim lights. They didn't treat her like a diplomat's daughter. They treated her like a threat. News traveled fast, but not as fast as that message. In a hidden facility deep beneath Earth's capital, an alert pinged red across a quiet command screen. Emergency code, Violet Sigma, child endangered. Location, Safnira Colony, neutral space. Victims, Terran Union miners. Status, confirmed injured. Authorization request, immediate retrieval protocol. The president of the Terran Union read the report. Her lips thinned. She didn't call the Senate. She didn't speak to the press. She looked at the man beside her. Senkura. Admiral Kara Voss had known war. Her name was etched into history across 3 systems. But when she received the violet signal, her blood froze, not out of fear, out of fury. She had a daughter stationed at Safnira. She boarded the dreadnought Mercy's Edge within the hour. The Galactic Council didn't even notice at first, too busy filing diplomatic excuses and burying the footage. A training mistake. An unfortunate misunderstanding. Human overreaction, they said, until the stars above Safnira darkened. Mercy's Edge arrived in orbit without a transmission. Its systems were locked. Its weapon ports, though cold, were open. 6 escort vessels, silent, black, unmoving. Director Henril watched from the planetary control center, sweat pooling under his scales. A message came. "We are here for our children. Do not resist." They didn't. Ava was pulled into her mother's arms. Her face bruised, but unbroken. Theo was alive but dazed. There were tears, screams, promises of justice. The human ambassador, said nothing. She simply walked past the council delegation, her eyes like twin knives. Back on Earth, across every colony and vessel, a familiar phrase lit up public screens. No music, no color, just a white screen and black text. The first rule has been broken, and the galaxy knew what came next. The stars were quiet, too quiet. After the retrieval of the injured children from Safnira, the Terran Union made no public statement. No war declaration, no formal accusation, just silence. And it was that silence that terrified the galaxy more than any weapon. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session in the Orly Spire, high above the gas giant Eslan Prime. The chamber, a gleaming dome of glass and alloy, buzzed with nervous energy. Dozens of species murmured in their native tongues, voices filled with unease. At the center, Council Director Henrel stood, his scales dull under the artificial lighting. He looked less like a leader and more like prey. "We must issue a joint statement," he insisted, voice rising above the chatter. "A clarification. The children were not harmed intentionally. Our investigations suggest a breakdown in protocols, not malice." Ambassador Vrel II of the Serani blinked slowly. "They were children, Henrel. Your guards detained them, locked them in an interrogation chamber, and injured at least one. Do you know what they call that in Terran law?" Henrel swallowed. "Collateral risk?" Vrel II hissed. "Kidnapping." Another voice, cold and smooth, joined the discussion. "Humans are emotional, overprotective. We should not indulge their paranoia." It was Sarai High Chancellor Dej, her 4 eyes unblinking. She was young, brash, and ignorant of history. The chamber fell silent as she continued. "If the Council bows to every emotional reaction, we weaken ourselves." An older member of the Council, Grand Archivist Mren of the Thel, raised one trembling limb. "High Chancellor, forgive me, but do you know why we never touch their children?" Dej waved dismissively. "My people were not part of that ancient conflict. We were born long after the so-called Krytal incident. It is myth, nothing more." Mren's voice dropped to a whisper. "It was not myth. I watched their worlds burn. I saw stars vanish in silent rage. I saw them rewrite the laws of war for vengeance." A heavy stillness fell. Across the stars, humans prepared. The Terran Union didn't send fleets. Not yet. They pulled them back. Patrols vanished. Colonies went dark. Civilian transports returned home. Diplomats were recalled. And across every known sector, Earth stopped answering its comms. It was like they inhaled slow, deep and silent. Admiral Caravas stood on the observation deck of Mercy's Edge, watching the spinning blue of Earth through a reinforced viewport. Behind her, officers whispered, organizing deployments, recalling deep space teams. She said nothing. She didn't need to. The video logs from Safnira played on a loop. No sound, just images. Her daughter flinching as guards screamed, Theo bleeding beside her, a Varnari officer yanking Ava's arm with no hesitation. A faint tremor pulsed through the deck. Engines spooling up. War machines humming. Still, Earth made no threats. In underground bunkers, human engineers activated dormant AI constructs designed for crisis-only protocols. Operation Cradle, preparation phase. The protocol was old, older than any living soldier. It wasn't designed to conquer. It was built for only one thing: to make the galaxy remember. Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Camira Reyes arrived late. The human representative stepped into the dome in full Terran formal wear, black, polished, sharp. No expression on her face. No emotion in her voice. "The first rule has been broken," she said, her voice low and even. "You will submit the names of every official involved in the Safnira incident within 48 standard hours." Henrel rose to protest. "This is outrageous. You cannot dictate terms." Camira turned her gaze to him. "You touched our children. We didn't mean to harm." "You did." A pause. Camira placed a black data crystal on the council floor. "If you refuse, Operation Cradle proceeds." Dej sneered. "And what is Operation Cradle? Another human scare tactic?" Camira didn't answer. She turned, cloak sweeping behind her, and walked out. As she exited, the floor hologram lit up. The crystal activated. Images flickered into the air, videos, photos, and records of every council member involved in the decision. Their families, their coordinates, their history. No violence, just knowledge. And the clear, unspoken message. We know where you live. In the galactic undercurrents, rumors grew. Human black ops were already active. A Sarai mining barge had gone missing near Sol. A Varnari defense minister's shuttle had vanished en route to a luxury moon. No demands had been made. And yet, species across the stars began shielding their young, locking down embassies and checking old treaties. Because when humans go silent after you hurt their children, they don't threaten war. They prepare justice. And justice was coming. Council Director Henrel didn't hear the blast. One moment, he was reviewing a half-hearted apology draft in his private quarters aboard the Council flagship Harmony's Vigil. The next, a thunderclap of air pressure threw him from his seat as the ceiling above buckled inward. Screams echoed in the corridor outside. Before he could crawl to the door, they were already inside. 3 Terran operatives in sleek, black impact armor, their faces hidden behind HUD visors. They moved with precise, practiced silence, as though they were part of the ship itself. One stepped forward and said calmly, "You're being retrieved." Henrel tried to protest, to assert diplomatic immunity. They didn't answer. They simply stunned him and carried him out. He wasn't the first. He would not be the last. Operation Cradle had entered Phase 2. The humans didn't announce it. They didn't broadcast threats. Instead, one by one, they hunted down every council official who had been involved directly or indirectly in the Safnir incident. No planets were bombarded. No armies deployed. This was a campaign of surgical fear. Within a week, High Chancellor Dej of the Sarai vanished during a live address. One frame showed her. The next, only a flickering hologram. The Safnira planetary governor was found in orbit, strapped to a life pod with nothing but water, protein rations, and a single playback screen showing a message. Ava Lynn Reyes, age 11. You touched her. A Varnari intelligence officer turned himself into his own government, babbling about being stalked by a human shadow. His mind broke before he could speak more. Across the galaxy, the message was clear: no one escapes accountability. Even systems that had supported the Council reluctantly began leaking names and reports to Terran intelligence. The fear of being seen by the humans was greater than loyalty. On every world touched by this campaign, the humans left behind a token, always the same. A small car figurine of a child holding a star. Admiral Caravas stood aboard Mercy's Edge, reviewing the stream of mission updates. Each one reported successful retrieval or exposure. 0 fatalities. Not a drop of human blood spilled. But the message was unmistakable. This wasn't retaliation. It was a reckoning. Her daughter, Ava, slept peacefully in the medical bay 2 decks below. Healing, but still quiet. Too quiet. The girl hadn't spoken since the incident. Doctors said she would recover in time. Kara didn't wait for time. She moved the galaxy instead. At the center of a private asteroid tribunal, deep in human-controlled space, a dozen captured council members were gathered. No shackles, no abuse. They were fed, treated well, even offered defense counsel. The humans didn't want revenge. They wanted them to face it. The tribunal wasn't televised. Only one audience was present, a row of children. Survivors from Safnira. Theo, Ava, others. Some still with bruises. Some quiet. Some clinging to each other in instinctive packs, the way human children do when scared. Each official was asked only one question. Do you understand what you did? Some wept. Some remained defiant. Some begged. None of them were executed. They were sent back to their own people, shamed, exposed, and marked by the truth. Across the stars, alien civilizations watched in stunned silence. The humans, with all their power, didn't burn worlds or demand tribute. They taught. In their own terrifying way, they taught the galaxy what it meant to break trust with humanity. A Sarai child's parents made a broadcast apology to Earth, swearing to never allow such failures again. A Varnari Educational Guild released a revised history module, now including the first rule, with first-hand footage of Ava Lynn Reyes. Schools across the galaxy began opening with a new phrase. We do not harm children, especially human ones. At the edge of council space, the last unrepentant official, a KRYLL warlord who once laughed off human threats, was found dead in his quarters. No wounds, no entry logs, just a message burned into the wall in Terran standard. You broke the rule. You broke yourself. Back aboard Mercy's Edge, Admiral Caravas stood beside her daughter's bed. Ava finally looked up at her. They came for us, didn't they? She whispered. Kara knelt beside her. Yes, Starshine. We always do. The child nodded, tears in her eyes. Even when the stars are far. Especially then, Kara whispered, holding her tightly. Outside, the galaxy held its breath. Because now they knew. The first rule wasn't just law. It was sacred, and breaking it didn't invite war. It invited humanity. The Galactic Council no longer met in the Orly Spire. The structure stood abandoned, high above the clouds of Eslan Prime, a gleaming ghost, empty of its former arrogance. After the tribunal, no species wanted to be associated with the place where the first rule had been broken. Instead, a new summit was called, this time on neutral ground, a Terran orbital station known simply as Unity. No grand design, no pomp, just clean steel, quiet halls, and the ever-present hum of disciplined human efficiency. Each attending species sent a delegation, but unlike past councils, they came humbled. There were no speeches, no long ceremonial greetings. Only one figure stood at the center of the assembly. Ambassador Camira Reyes, her expression calm, her daughter, Ava, standing silently beside her. The ambassador looked around the chamber, pausing to let the silence stretch. We are not here to negotiate, she said at last. We are here to set things right. No one interrupted. The first rule of the galaxy has existed in informal memory for over 300 years. It was born of tragedy, enforced through fear, whispered like myth. But it is no myth, and fear is not the foundation of justice. She turned slightly, her voice sharpening. You broke that rule. You allowed your fear of human strength to blind you to the strength of our principles. You thought we would unleash fire and fury, but we didn't. She placed a small, silver disc on the table before her. A hologram unfolded, footage of the Safnira incident. The guard shoving Theo, Ava's scream, the locked doors, the child's bruised wrist. Then, new images, the council members standing trial before a silent row of children, the carved figurine of a child holding a star. Camira's voice dropped to a quiet intensity. We do not burn your worlds when wronged. We bring you the truth. We let you look into the eyes of the ones you harmed. Ava squeezed her mother's hand. Camira squeezed back. From this moment forward, the first rule is no longer a whispered custom. It is law. She tapped the console. A new text scrolled onto the central holoscreen. Galactic Accord Amendment. Children's Protection Act. Article 1. No species, government, or institution may detain, interrogate, harm, or in any way endanger a minor of any race, regardless of political status or territorial jurisdiction. Article 2. All minors are to be treated as protected persons under wartime and peacetime protocols. Article 3. Violations of this law will invoke immediate universal jurisdiction for prosecution and intervention. The Terran Union reserves the right to enforce this law independently where others fail. Article 4. In the event of conflict, the welfare of children will supersede all other considerations. No one opposed it. Not one. Even the former objectors, like the Serani and Varnari, nodded solemnly. This wasn't politics anymore. This was survival. After the summit, the ripple spread. On Delcaris Prime, schools posted the rule above every classroom. On the mining moons of Gru Thale, workers paused to carve the child and star icon into stone. Even war fleets of hardened species began painting small stars on their command bridges, reminders of restraint, of memory, of meaning. Humans did not celebrate. They simply returned home. Months passed, then a year. Ava Lynn Reyes went back to school. this time on a Terran moon facility. Her scar faded, though her eyes were still older than her age. Theo laughed again. The others began to play once more. But things had changed. Ava would sometimes sit in silence, carving small wooden figurines, just like the one the operatives left behind on every world. She gave them to others. A gift, a reminder. Admiral Caravas visited a memorial garden Earth had built on the plains of New Geneva. It was quiet, rows of names, not of the dead, but of the survivors. Children who had been harmed. Children who had been saved. Children the galaxy would never forget again. At the center stood a stone plinth with one inscription. The galaxy will not be judged by how it treats the strong, but how it protects its smallest. Kara placed her hand on the stone and whispered the names of the children under her breath, one by one. Then she left, not because she was finished, but because her daughter was waiting. The galaxy turned. Worlds healed, but no one forgot the fire that had almost come and the hand that reached instead. The first rule of the galaxy had been rewritten, not in treaties, not in blood, but in the hearts of those who had once looked away and now vowed never to do so again.